Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Thursday, February 4th, 2021. Today I'm going to recap yesterday's college basketball, NBA, and NHL games. Look ahead to today's games in each sport. I'll do my NHL power rankings. We'll talk a little National Signing Day in college football. Mass Dancer. We forgot to talk about that on the show. We forgot to preview it, but we'll recap last night's quarterfinals and my best bet of the day. All right, we'll start in college basketball. We will go over what was an interesting slate of games yesterday and look ahead to a shorter slate for tonight. Delaware State over Lancaster Bible, 81-80. James Madison over Alon, 78-57. East Carolina over number 5 Houston, 82-73. UMass over Fordham, 60-54. South Carolina upsets number 22 Florida, 72-66. Number 10 Alabama defeats LSU 78-60. Pitt over number 16 Virginia Tech 83-72. Number 18 Missouri over Kentucky 75-70. LaSalle over St. Louis 82-75. Seton Hall over Providence 60-43. VC over Rhode Island 63-62. VMI over Wofford 84-80 in overtime. Chattanooga over Western Carolina 74-67. East Tennessee State over Mercer 70-64. UNC Greensboro over the Citadel 85-66. Western Michigan over Bowling Green, 76-70. Incarnate Word over Lamar, 67-58. Wichita State over Tulane, 75-67. Memphis over UCF, 75-61. Stephen F. Austin over A&M Corpus Christi, 84-75. St. John's upsets number 3 Villanova, 70-59. Number 14 Virginia over NC State, 64-57. Georgetown upsets number 15 Crane, 86-79. SMU over Tulsa, 65-63. TCU over Oklahoma State, 81-78. All right, now the games for today, there is a little less than there were yesterday. First up, you have Tennessee State at SIU Edwardsville at 2 o'clock. My line for this game is Edwardsville by 3, total of 138. Meanwhile, it's Edwardsville 1.5, total 134.5. I'm taking the over at minus 115. Next up, at 4 o'clock, Mount St. Mary's and Bryant. My line is Mount St. Mary's by 2.5, total 144.5. Yale's Bryant 5.5, total 141.5. I'm taking Mount St. Mary's plus 5.5 at minus 102. And I take a stab at plus 230 straight up. Next up, Wagner, St. Francis, Brooklyn. My line is St. Fran, Brooklyn by 1, total 149.5. Meanwhile, it's Brooklyn 2.5, total 139.5. I love the over in this game between Wagner and St. Francis Brooklyn. Love it. St. Francis, Pennsylvania and Merrimack. My line is a pick'em, total 145. Merrimack by 3.5, total 137.5. I have to go with an over, minus 114. Next up at 6 o'clock, South Carolina Upstate at Radford. My line is Radford 7, total 138. Meanwhile, it's Radford 9.5, total 131.5. Yet another over, this one at minus 112. 7 o'clock, ESPN. Great game in the Big Ten. Number 7, Ohio State at number 8, Iowa. My line is Iowa 1.5, total 154.5. Meanwhile, it is Iowa 4.5, total 156.5. I am going to go with Ohio State getting to 4.5 at minus 104. I think this game's a little bit closer than they say. I know Luka Garza is tremendous, best player on the court, best player perhaps in the country. But I'm going to take Ohio State plus a 4.5 at minus 104 to cover. ESPNU, Presbyterian, and Gardner-Webb. My line is Gardner-Webb 7.5, total 136. Meanwhile, it's Gardner-Webb 10.5, total 135.5. I'm going to take the over at minus 112. Fox Sports 1, Arizona, Utah. My line is Arizona by 6, total 142. Meanwhile, it's Arizona 1.5, total 142.5. I'm going to lay the 1.5 with Arizona against Utah. ESPN 2, Cincinnati, Temple. My line is Cincinnati 2.5, total 137.5. Meanwhile, it's Cincinnati 1.5, total 140.5. I'm taking the under at minus 115. Fairleigh Dickinson in Long Island. My line is Long Island by a half, total 151.5. Meanwhile, I do not see a line for this game posted yet. But I do think LIU will beat Fairleigh Dickinson. Murray State and Moorhead State. My line is Moorhead 2.5. Total 133.5. And my line for this is Murray State 2.5. Total 130.5. I'm going to take Moorhead plus a 2.5 minus 114 and plus 120 on the money line. Eastern Kentucky against Austin Peay from Eastern Kentucky. My line is Eastern Kentucky by 3, total 148.5. Meanwhile, it's Eastern Kentucky by 2.5, total 152.5. I'm going to take the under at minus 114. BYU Portland. My line is BYU by 16, total 147.5. Meanwhile, it's BYU 18.5, total 144.5. So I'm going to take the over in that game. 8:30, Belmont, Eastern Illinois. My line is Belmont 16, total 147.5. So it is the identical to my projection for BYU Portland. So that is very, very strange. And it's 13.5 total, 150.5. I'm going to lay the 13.5 of Belmont at minus 105. 9 o'clock, number 1 Gonzaga at Pacific. My line is Gonzaga 14.5, total 152.5. Meanwhile, it is Gonzaga 23.5, total 152.5. So I got the total correct with Gonzaga. I have to take Pacific plus the points, though, at a juice number at minus 114. I think Gonzaga is just overvalued here. I'm sorry. No, they won't lose outright. I just think that it's closer than they say. Pac-12 Network, Washington, Oregon State. My line is Oregon State by 4, total 141.5. Meanwhile, it's 5.5 total, 142.5. I'm going to take Washington plus the 5.5 at minus 105 to keep the game close. ESPN 2, Stanford, Cal. My line Stanford 10, total 139. We all had 6.5 total, 133.5. I have to take the over 133.5 rather than Stanford. Bigger edge on the over, although laying it with Stanford and parlaying it with the over is intriguing. Fox Sports 1, Minnesota Rutgers. My line is Rutgers 3.5, total 145. Meanwhile, Rutgers is favored by 6, but I don't see a total. I'm going to take Minnesota getting the 6. No, they won't win. I just think that game's close. Colorado State, Wyoming. My line is Colorado State 8, total 147.5. Meanwhile, it's 8.5 total, 152.5. I have to take the under. I have a 5-point edge on the under, and there's value on the under at minus 106. Utah State, Fresno State. My line is Utah State by 8.5, total 136. Meanwhile, it's 11.5 total, 130.5. I'm going to take the over at minus 112. Tennessee Tech and Southeast Missouri State. I have Southeast Missouri State by 2, total 140. Meanwhile, it is, I can't find a lineup for this game. The Southeast Missouri State against 10 Tech. ESPN has Southeast Missouri State 4.5. So I have to take Tennessee Tech plus the 4.5. Jacksonville State and Tennessee Martin. My line is Jacksonville State 6.5, total 143. Meanwhile, it's 9.5, total 139.5. I'm going to take the over 139.5 at minus 114. Montana State, Weber State. My line is Montana State by 4, total 142.5. Meanwhile, it's Weber State by 7.5, total 141.5. I have to take Montana State getting the 7.5 and plus 275 on the money line. That is crazy that Weber State is that big of a favorite. They shouldn't even be favored. Eastern Washington and Idaho. My line is Eastern Washington 17.5, total 144. Meanwhile, it's 14.5, total 147.5. I'm going to take the under 147.5. I just think Idaho stinks offensively and defensively. 10 o'clock, Montana and Portland State. My line is Montana by 5, total 134. Meanwhile, I do not see any lineup yet for this game on FanDuel, but ESPN has Montana by 1. I'm taking Montana State Montana minus the point. And last but not least, 11 o'clock, Fox Sports 1, Washington State and Oregon. My line's Oregon 9.5, total 138.5. Meanwhile, it is Oregon 11.5, total 135.5. So I have an edge on the over and a smaller edge on Washington State. I have to take the over 135.5 at minus 108 as my pick for that game. Now I'll move on to the NBA. We'll look back on a busy slate from yesterday and look ahead to a lesser slate for tonight. 76ers over the Hornets, 118-111. Philly 16-6. Charlotte 10-12. Joel Embiid at 34 with 11 rebounds for Philly. LaMelo Ball at 22 for Charlotte. Bucks over the Pacers, 130-110. Bucks 13-8. Indy 12-10. Giannis Antetokounmpo 21 points and 14 boards and 10 assists. Domantas Sabonis had 33 with 12 boards. Jeff Van Gundy, by the way, made a ridiculous comment about Sabonis. He said he's the Eastern Conference's Anthony Davis. I'd say he's the Eastern Conference's Nikola Jokic more so than Anthony Davis. Mavericks over the Hawks, 122-116. Dallas 9-13. Atlanta 10-11. Luka Doncic had 27 points and 14 assists. John Collins had 35 for Atlanta. Clippers over the Cavaliers, 121-99. Clippers 17-6, Cleveland 10-12. Paul George had 36 for the Clips as well as 6 assists. Colin Sexton, 27 points and 5 assists. Wizards over the Heat, 103-100. Washington 5-13. Miami 7-14. Bradley Beal had 32 points to lead the way for Washington. Tyler Herro had 20 for Miami as he came back in that game. Knicks over the Bulls, 107-103. The Knicks are 10-13. Chicago 8-12. Julius Randle had 27 and 6 assists and 6 boards. Zach LaVine had 24 and 7 assists for Chicago. Thunder bounced back and defeat the Rockets 104-87. Thunder 9-11. Houston 10-10. Kenrich Williams led the Thunder in scoring with 19. Eric Gordon had 22 and 4 assists for Houston. Spurs over the Timberwolves, 111-108. The Spurs come back from 16 down to beat the Timberwolves. San Antonio 12-10, Minnesota 5-16. DeMar DeRozan had 30 for San Antonio. Malik Beasley 29 for Minnesota. Pelicans over the Suns 123-101. The Pelicans 8-12. Phoenix 11-9. Zion Williamson had 28 points and 6 assists for New Orleans. Devin Booker had 25 for the Suns. Kings over the Celtics 116-111. Sacramento 10-11. Boston 11-9. De'Aaron Fox had 26 points and 11 assists. Jason Tatum 27 and 10 assists for Boston. Only 5 games on the docket tonight for basketball. First up at 7:30, you have the Jazz at the Hawks. My line is Jazz 8.5, total 221.5. Meanwhile, it is Jazz 7.5, total 224.5. I'm laying. Actually, no, take that back. I'm taking the under 224.5. The Jazz play better defense than what that number shows, so give me the under 224.5. TNT, Warriors, Mavericks. So the first of 2 primetime games between these two teams in the next 3 days. Golden State, I project as a 1-point favorite, total 223. Meanwhile, Dallas 3, total 225. I'm going to take Golden State plus the 3 and plus 124 on the money line. Stephen Curry, it wouldn't be surprising if he ends up being the best player on the court in this game. Luka Doncic could very well be that. And the third best player on the court in this game could very well be Kristaps Porzingis, so that's the case for Dallas. But I'm going to take Golden State plus 3 and plus 124 on the money line. Second of the back-to-back, by the way, for Dallas. So there's a chance that Porzingis might not play. And if Porzingis doesn't play, my projection goes up to Golden State by 4. So you got to factor that in a little bit as well. 8 o'clock, Trailblazers 76ers. My line's Philly 12 total 228. Meanwhile, it's Philly 9.5 total 227. I'm laying the 9.5 of Philly. I have no choice. A lot of injuries for Portland. 9 o'clock, Rockets Grizzlies. My line's Memphis 2 total 219.5. Meanwhile, it's Memphis 2 total 223. So I got the line correct there. I'm going to jump on the under 223. Rockets on the second of a back-to-back. Memphis plays good defense, so I'm going to take the under 223 at minus 115. And last but not least, 10 o'clock TNT, Nuggets, Lakers. My projections, Lakers 3.5 total, 222. Meanwhile, it's Lakers 5 total, 217.5. I have no choice but to take the over. The case is that Denver's offense has been marvelous of late. LeBron and Anthony Davis have big games. Denver's defense isn't very good. So give me the over 217.5 between the Nuggets and the Lakers for tonight. Now we'll go back and look at the hockey results from a short window from yesterday, and we will look ahead to tonight's busy slate. Lightning over the Red Wings 5-1. The Lightning 6-1-1. Detroit 2-7-2. Number 3 started game with the goal, Alex Kohler. Number 2 started game with 2 assists, Blake Coleman. And the number 1 started game with the goal and assist, Victor Hedman. Bruins over the Flyers 4-3 in overtime on a game-winning goal by Patrice Bergeron as the Flyers blow a 3-1 lead, courtesy of 3 power play goals by the Bruins. Boston 7-1-2, Philly 7-2-2. The number 3 started game with 2 assists, James Van Riemsdyk. Number 2 started game with a hat trick and an assist, David Pasternak. And the number 1 started the game with a goal and 3 assists, Patrice Bergeron. And that goal obviously was the game winner. Golden Knights Sharks was supposed to be part of a triple header on NBCSN, but that game obviously postponed as the Golden Knights have some COVID stuff going on. Sabres, Islanders, and Devils, Penguins both postponed due to Devils and Sabres both having COVID issues. 7 o'clock, Capitals, Rangers. Interesting game from the Garden tonight. The Capitals are minus 104. Rangers are favored at minus 112. Ooh. Over under 6.5. Over plus 105. Under minus 125. Capitals plus 1.5 is minus 250. Rangers minus 1.5 is plus 205. This is trying to tell you something, right? I've been burned by betting against the Bruins and betting on the Capitals as an underdog. They're trying to tell you something, right? I'm taking the Rangers minus 112. I think that Vegas might be trying to tell us something here. So give me the Rangers minus 112 as they get back to 500 on the season. Predators, Panthers. Panthers minus 118. Preds plus 100. Over under 5.5. Overs minus 125. Unders plus 105. Preds plus 1.5 is minus 250. Florida minus 1.5 is plus 205. I'm taking the Predators on the money line at even money. I think that this is a good little get-right spot for them. And I think that they are capable of winning this game on the road. Stars, Blue Jackets. Dallas is minus 120. Columbus plus 102. Over under 5.5. Overs plus 125. Unders minus 145. Dallas minus 1.5 is plus 210. Columbus plus 1.5 is minus 255. I'm going to go with another underdog here in Columbus. I think that this is a nice spot for them to get going at home against Dallas. So give me Columbus plus 102. Senators, Canadians. Montreal's a whopping minus 320. Ottawa is plus 260. Over under 6.5. Overs minus 120. Unders even money. Ottawa plus 1.5 is even money. And Canadians minus 1.5 is minus 118. I'm going to take the over. Over 6.5 and minus 120. I feel better about that than I do about the Canadians winning by multiple goals. Let's give me the over 6.5 and minus 120. Canucks, Maple Leafs. Toronto's minus 124. Plus 162 is Vancouver. Over under 6.5. Overs minus 135. Unders plus 115. Canucks plus 1.5 is minus 162. Toronto minus 1.5 is plus 136. I'm going to take the over 6.5 and minus 135. I know it's a juice a little bit, but I feel pretty good that these two teams are going to put on an offensive clinic. 8 o'clock, the Hurricanes and the Blackhawks. Hurricanes minus 194. Blackhawks plus 162. Over under 5.5. Overs minus 130. Unders plus 110. Carolina minus 1.5 is plus 142. And Chicago plus 1.5 is minus 130 or minus 168. I'm going to take another over. I think that this is a high-scoring game between these two teams. Coyotes, Blues. The Blues are minus 180. The Coyotes are plus 152. Over under 5.5. Overs even money. Unders minus 120. Coyotes plus 1.5 is minus 184. Blues minus 1.5 is plus 154. I'm going to take the over at even money. I think that these two teams are better offensive teams than given credit for, especially St. Louis. I think St. Louis probably wins this game like 4-2, so that's the over. Flames, Jets, again. Flames minus 126. Jets plus 105. Over under 5.5. Overs minus 125. Unders plus 105. Calgary minus 1.5 is plus 190. Jets plus 1.5 is minus 230. I'm going to take the over. North Division overs, to me, feel like they're a trend this year, and I think that continues with these two good offenses. I think this could very well be a 4-2 game or a 4-3 game between these two teams. And Wild Avalanche postponed as the Wild are going to be on pause for a week as they have some COVID issues that they have to take care of. Now I'm going to do my NHL power rankings for the week. Go from 31 to 1 as I do each and every week. So without further ado, here we go. Number 31 is the Ottawa Senators. They're just the worst team in the league. They have 3 points, 1-8-1 on the year. 30 is the Red Wings. They are 2-7-2 with 6 points on the season. They're not very good, despite being some frisky. 29 is the San Jose Sharks at 3-5-0 at 6 points. I just wonder if they're going to blow things up at the trade deadline. 28 is the Los Angeles Kings at 3-4-2 with 8 points. They've been surprisingly decent so far this year. Number 27 is the Arizona Coyotes, a disappointing 3-5-1 with 7 points. Their goaltending hasn't been what I thought it would be. 26th is the New Jersey Devils at 4-3-2 with 10 points. I'm not sold on them completely. Now they have a COVID pause, and I think that could screw it up for them a little bit. 25 is the New York Islanders at 3-4-2 with 8 points. I think they've been very disappointing this year. They go out and kick ass against the Rangers on opening night. They haven't done anything significant since. And speaking of the Rangers, they're number 24. They're playing a little bit better. They're 3-4-2 on the year at 8 points. Wouldn't be shocked if they ended up in 5th place in the division by the time we're talking next week, because they're starting to play a little bit better. Number 23, the Anaheim Ducks. They are 4-5-2 at 10 points. John Gibson has stolen a lot of games for them so far this year. Number 22, the Nashville Predators. They are 4-5-0 at 8 points. They've been feast or famine. Number 21 is the Buffalo Sabres, 4-4-2 at 10 points. They've been surprisingly decent so far this year. Taylor Hall's been a marvelous pickup. Number 20 is the Calgary Flames, 4-4-1 with 9 points. They've started to turn it on a little bit after the players-only meeting that Derek was referring to on my show on Sunday. Number 19, the Chicago Blackhawks. They are 3-4-4 with 10 points. Playing a little bit better. Amazingly enough, 3 points back of first place. The Central Division is there for the taking. Number 18, the Columbus Blue Jackets, 4-4-3 with 11 points. Derek mentioned it the other day that their forwards have been playing better than their defensemen. They're starting to be a little bit better, only 2 points out of first place. 17, the Dallas Stars, 5-1-1 with 11 points. They really picked off where they left off in their run to the Stanley Cup Final last year. They've been playing marvelous coming off their COVID hiatus. Number 16, the Florida Panthers, 5-0-1. The lone team to lose a regulation game this season. They've been marvelous. Joe Quenneville's been doing a great job with that team. 15, the Edmonton Oilers, 6-6-0 at 12 points. They've turned it on a little bit. They're now in 4th place in that division. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl have just been unreal. 14, the Minnesota Wild at 6-5-0 at 12 points, 3rd place in the division. They've been very good, and their rookie, Kirill Kaprizov, could very well be the rookie of the year. He's been that good. Number 13, the Pittsburgh Penguins, 5-4-1 on the year with 11 points. Could have won that game against the Rangers the other night, but Igor Shesterkin stood on his head. They're still looking for a GM. Ron Hextall is going to interview. Chris Drury's a candidate. Someone on Twitter threw out Pierre Maguire. I don't think they'll go that route, although they interviewed him 7 years ago, and he was a runner-up to the job behind Jim Rutherford. So that's a little bit wild thinking about that. Number 12, the Vancouver Canucks. 6-7-0 with 12 points. They've been playing a little bit better lately. As Derek and I spoke about on the podcast, they're tied for fourth with Edmonton in the division. Edmonton just has a game in hand. Number 11, the Vegas Golden Knights, 5-1-1 with 11 points. Unfortunately, they are currently on a COVID pause. Number 10, the Carolina Hurricanes, 6-1-0 with 12 points. They had a COVID pause as well, and they've really have done well since coming back, so credit to them. Number 9, the Winnipeg Jets, 6-3-1 with 13 points. Pierre-Luc Dubois is playing for them now. We'll see how that works out. Where did we leave off? 8, the Toronto Maple Leafs, 7-2-1, 15 points. They've been playing great. And their stars have lived up to the back of their hockey cards. Number 7, the St. Louis Blues, first place in the West, 7-2-1 on the year with 15 points. They've been very, very good. And to me, Craig Berube, whomever wins the West Division has to be in the consideration for the Jack Adams for me, because that's a loaded division with St. Louis and Vegas and Colorado and Minnesota's emergence. Number 6, the Tampa Bay Lightning, sitting in first place in the Central at 6-1-1 with 13 points. That division, to me, is wide open. They're for the taking, but the Lightning are still the Lightning to me. Number 5, the Colorado Avalanche, 7-3-1 and 15 points. They're tied with the Blues, but the Blues have a game in hand. Colorado's really been an ass-kicking team this year. Number 4, the Washington Capitals, 6-1-3 with 15 points, third place in the East Division. The East Division's very top-heavy. I thought the East was going to play out like the Central, but the East Division looks, at the moment, top-heavy with the clear top 3, and that fourth spot wide open between like Pittsburgh, Rangers, Islanders, Sabres. I'm not sold on New Jersey, as we talked about earlier, but Washington's been awesome. They finally lost the regulation game the other day against Boston. Boston had the go-ahead goal late in that game in the third period, and now Washington, Vegas still isn't sold. They're an underdog at the Rangers, for crying out loud. But it's a good opportunity for the Rangers to get back in it a little bit and get within a point of Pittsburgh, who's on a COVID pause due to them playing the Devils. It's not their fault that they're on a COVID pause, but they were the culprit of playing the Devils. And the Rangers, too. The Rangers were supposed to play against them, too. Number 3, the Montreal Canadiens, 7-1-2, 16 points. First place in the North Division. Claude Julien's done a marvelous job so far this year with that team. He has to be in the consideration for the Jack Adams so far. Number 2, the Philadelphia Flyers, 7-2-2, 16 points. Blew that game against Boston last night, but they should be fine going forward. And the Bruins are my number 1 team, 7-1-2, 16 points, first place in the East Division, courtesy of that win over Philly and having a game in hand. They're undefeated at home. David Pasternak's starting to heat up after a slow start. He has 5 goals this week. He had his first 2 of the season against the Capitals, and he had a hat trick last night against Philly. So it looks like he's finally getting going. So there you have it for the power rankings for this week for the National Hockey League. Now I want to touch on National Signing Day in college football. yet again, Nick Saban dominates, has his best recruiting class ever, according to a lot of people in the know. 7 5-star players for Saban. So that is just unbelievable as Alabama continues to load up with big names and big time players. So Michigan flipped 2 big recruits. Rayshawn Benny was a 4-star defensive tackle who committed to Michigan State, and now they flipped him to Michigan. So that's pretty good. And then Harbaugh snagged away a 3-star player in Akechu Awana from Colorado. So Michigan had a good day. Wide receiver Destin Hill committed to Florida State. 4-star receiver. The number 19 receiver. Number 113th player overall. Defensive tackle Tyrone Malone committed to Ole Miss, New Jersey's own. This was a big get for Lane Kiffin, 4-star prospect. He committed to Ole Miss, and A&M and Florida State were in play for him. And Ole Miss has the number 18th class, so that's pretty good. A team that had a good day yesterday was USC. Rayshawn Davis, the outside linebacker, committed to them. So this is a good bounce-back recruiting year for Lane Kiffin after losing out to Arizona State on some recruits. So this was a good get for Lane Kiffin, who here lands a 4-star recruit and the number 48th player overall. And then one of Saban's gets was Terrion Arnold, a fantastic 4-star safety. And then Sage Ryan, who's a 5-star safety, picked LSU, so that's a good get for Ed Orgeron's team. And then we talked about Bama having the best recruiting class of all time. And this is the best recruiting class since the 2010 Florida Gators. So 5-star running back Kamar Wheaton goes to Bama. The other 5 stars, other than Wheaton, J.C. Latham, Tommy Brockmeyer, Dallas Turner, Quincy McKinstry, Damon Payne, and Ja'Cory Brooks. So a great, great day for Nick Saban, like it always is. And then L.J. Johnson commits to Texas A&M, who is a 4-star running back. And Steve Sarkisian wanted him to come to the Longhorns of Texas, but he chooses Jimbo Fisher over Steve Sarkisian. And Johnson's the number 4 running back in the class. So that's a good get for Texas A&M. And we talked about Michigan being a big winner. Nebraska, to me, is a loser. They missed out on some 4-star players. And obviously, Alabama, we talked about. A lot of the SEC had good days. And then, so it's interesting how this plays out. And we don't talk about signing day very much on the podcast, but if we have time to do it, we'll do it. And then North Carolina brought in Dante Balfour, a 4-star corner. And he chose the Tar Heels over LSU and in Auburn. And he was 247's number 17th ranked cornerback in 2021. So Mac Brown gets a big get there at the cornerback So there you have it, a little bit of National Signing Day talk for college football. Now I want to talk about some breaking news that broke while recording the podcast. Shams broke it this morning that we will have an NBA All-Star game. March 7th in Atlanta. That is great news for the NBA. And it looks like that we will have the three-point contest, the skills competition, the dunk contest. So this is, I think, great for the NBA. And we'll see what players choose to do this, because I think there's going to be some players that sit out because of COVID concerns. But even if the players that do it, I'm sure they'll be COVID tested and have to follow league protocols and all that. So knowing that the NBA is doing this, I think they're going to play this smart and follow the regular season protocols, and you have to wear a mask while sitting on the bench and all that. And maybe next week on the podcast, I will make all-star picks for each conference in the NBA. So there's a little bit of breaking news that we will have an NBA All-Star game on March 7th in Atlanta, and that is a Sunday, obviously. And the game will probably be on TNT, called by Marv Albert, Reggie Miller, and Chris Webber, like it is each and every year. Now we will recap last night's episode of The Masked Dancer. I apologize. Yesterday we forgot to preview the episode for yesterday. It was the quarterfinal. The guest panelist was Mayim Bialak. First up was the Tulip. There was a pink star with iced coffee, peanut butter and jelly, family potato chips. Her performance was to a song called My Boyfriend's Back. And in the performance, I noticed there's a lot of TikTok arm movement. And she said while talking to the judges that she's been performing her whole life. And her word up was lifetime achievements. I'm still guessing Maddie Ziegler for this. There's a lot of clues that relate to her. And then the potato chips clue, I think, could relate to her sister Mackenzie and her obsession with potato chips. There's a lot of dance clues. There's a mother-daughter hint in the clue package last week. So I'm going to stick with Maddie. Paula is going with Eliza Koch. And Brian Austin Green had a bad guess of Haley Duff. And Mayhem had a bad guess of Jamie Lynn Spears. The Zebra. And then they had their dance partners talk about their about the contestants. So this clue package talked about the Zebra being fun. $19.92. Money, $19.92. And then there's a $1,000 bill in there. There's a cactus, and they talks about zero fat. And then they have 2 countries rooting for this guy. And then this person performed the routine to Take You Dancing by Jason Derulo. And their performance had a lounge background in there. And the word up was author. I'm still going with Floyd Mayweather. Too many boxing clues. And there were clues to me that are pointing in Floyd's direction as well. And I believe he wrote a book. Mayim guessed Oscar De La Hoya, who is another boxer. Ashley Tisdale went Conor McGregor. And Paula Abdul had a ridiculous guess in my mind. To me, this was her worst guess of the night. Barry Bonds. The Sloth went next. There was a city and pictures, and in the clue package, the person describing the sloth said that he's usually a leader. There's a hint, Mama raised him right, and this has people thinking this could be a Southern guy. And then there's a dancing panda in the clue package, and then the Sloth performed the Twist remix, and his word up was Rose. I think he meant Rose to the occasion. I'm going to go with Leslie Odom Jr. for this one. There's a lot of Broadway clues, and there's a lot of Glee clues, but there could be ties to Glee. Glee could just be Broadway. And I'm going to go Leslie Odom Jr. And I think Leslie Odom Jr. is somebody that would be a good get for the Masked franchise. Ken Jeong went with Harry Schoen Jr. Ashley Tisdale went with Hugh Jackman. And Mayim Balik went with Jack Black, which would be a fantastic get for the franchise, but I don't think that it's Jack Black. Next up, Exotic Bird. February, Monday, there's a heart, Santa Claus, a baby bird, a plane, a 23 jersey, Michael Jordan. And then she performed Opposites Attract by Paula Abdul. That was her song performance. And then in her performance, Nowhere Diner 6 was what the sign of the diner in the background of her performance said. Her word up was circus. Shakira was my guess. Ashley Tisdale said Khloe Kardashian. Mayim said Eve. And Paula went with Jordan Sparks. And last up was Cotton Candy. There is a golden watch that said 3 o'clock p.m. A red, white, and blue sash, which obviously to me is a reference towards the Olympics. A runner. Superhero. And then she did like a ballet-ish hip-hop type of routine to the Swan Lake Opus. And there's a lot of ballet. And she had great posture. And her word up was prayer. I'm sticking with my guess that I've had the whole season. That is Simone Biles, the talented gymnast from Team USA. Ken Jeong went with Julianne Hough, who he guessed earlier in the season. Brian Austin Green said Christy Yamaguchi. Paula agrees with me with Simone Biles. And then Mayim went with Hayden Panettiere, which is also a pretty good guess because she played a skater in a movie. But the person to go home tonight was Exotic Bird. I think this was the wrong choice, personally. I think that Zebra should have went home. My final guess was Shakira. Paula Abdul's final question was asking if she's met the person, and she said yes. Her final guess, Jordan Sparks. Ken Jeong question, major award winner. She said yes. His final guess, Jennifer Hudson. Brian's final question, taller than Ken Jeong? Yes. Final guess, Ashley Graham. Ashley Tisdale's final question, performed in large crowds? Yes. And then she stole Paula's guess of Jordan Sparks. And Mayim's final question was, has she ever been on the cover of a magazine? And she has. And her final guess was Eve. But who was it? Jordan Sparks. Paula and Ashley were correct. The former American Idol winner from season 6, Jordan Sparks. Exotic Bird. Great guest for the Masked franchise. This is obviously the biggest name that's been on The Masked Dancer thus far. I think she would have been great on The Masked Singer personally. But she's here on The Masked Dancer. And like I said, great get for the franchise. Paula knew it. There's a lot of clues referring to Jordan Sparks. Like obviously the Jordan jersey. Nowhere 6, Nowhere, No Air. She has a song No Air with Chris Brown. And 6 referring to Idol Season 6. There was a Bernie Sanders clue. Obviously the meme was in there. And that was referring to 2007. Bernie Sanders elected as senator the same year as Jordan Sparks won Idol. So many Idol clues for Jordan. And pretty neat to see her on the show. And then the baby was referring to her son. And it's funny, I remember when Jordan Sparks won American Idol, and I thought she was very talented, and so it's awesome to see her back in the mix, and like I said, great get for the franchise, but it would have been really cool if she was on Masked Singer rather than Masked Dancer, because I would have probably recognized her beautiful voice. And now my best bet of the day, brought to you by FanDuel. Some tough calls here in the sports world for tonight. I'm going to go in college basketball again for my best bet. And I am going to hold my breath and do something that I think is a weird line, just go against, but I just think this is too short of a line. I'm laying the 1.5 with Arizona against Utah for my best bet of the night. I just think that Arizona is just better than Utah. Sean Miller's going to have this team ready to go. And I think that they'll pull it out tonight. So give me Arizona minus the 1.5 against Utah. So there you have it for the show today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping college basketball, NBA, and NHL, and looking ahead to tomorrow's and the weekend slate in each sport. I'm going to do Super Bowl props tomorrow and make my prediction for the big game. And my best bet and anything else that happens in the world of sports and pop culture I'll have for you as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.